Welcome to the Service MVP podcast, and my name is Joe Crisara, America's Service Sales Coach, and I have with me one of my good friends, Mr. Ken Goodrich from the Goettl Services. It's much bigger than just heating and air. Started out with some very the beginnings were go back into the history of heating and air conditioning. Ken, welcome to the program. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Glad to be on the show with you, Joe.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have here, Ken, and definitely always great to reconnect. Ken, today's meeting is called How Will AI Affect the Service Industry, both now and in the future? And let's move forward on that subject. I think it's a subject that's going to get a lot of people watching and listening as they are looking for direction and trying to see how it's going to affect us. We do see some of the smaller effects right now. Let's start with the field, where the hardest working people in this business are working, out there in those attics and those trucks and out in the people's backyards and in their basements and stuff like that. How do you think in the field this will affect the average service technician or salespeople who are working with customers in the field?
Well, hold that thought. I just want to preface everything with this. If I think too deep about AI, I'm completely terrified. I mean, we grew up with the movie The Terminator, right? And it seems like it's really playing out, right in front of our eyes, just exactly how this movie described 40 years ago, which, I don't know how they already knew, but it is very interesting. That said, it's inevitable and AI is here to stay. It's coming. It's part of lots of things today that we probably don't even know that's going on. So as far as our industry is concerned, I really see lots of applications for us to, help our service technicians, from the equipment side, providing a more reliable or more predictive maintenance and predictive service methodology for the end user. I think that overall AI is going to be a great thing for us and, really starting to come on very fast. But that said, we talk about for the service technicians, where I really see it headed is, you think about a manufacturer, they could just grab one or two or three inputs, some sort of inputs in the system, a temperature, a voltage, outside temperatures, things like that, they can predict. I mean, you can take all that data and start to aggregate it and predict what the challenges with the unit is and start to reading data. And, but before the service technician ever arrives, the AI has pretty much predicted what the challenge is and say, either this is exactly what it is and or here's two or three things that it could be, bring these parts, right? And really streamline the troubleshooting process. All these years I started out as a technician and, really that's where the skill is the troubleshooter, right? The guy who could figure it all out, the guy who's really devoted himself to the trade, understood how it all works. The guy who knew how the TXV works, that guy.
Yeah.
And
I can see that. I can see how it's going to take the average technician to a much, because I think AI, what I'm seeing what it does, it's taken human history in a way and able to make that available to younger people immediately today. So they're not having to wait to get that experience. They're going to get it through that AI. That's kind of what you're referring to. Would you say that's correct?
It is. And, think about this. It's where I see it going is the manufacturer will start to include AI in their systems and be able to, predict breakdowns are coming. You can be more proactive on your service, and service technicians will probably start headed to be more of parts changers, than they are really technicians who are evaluating the system. Unless the AI is broken, I guess. But
well, you know what, Ken? It's interesting. I thought about that myself, but I always thought this: AI seems like it's kind of like when I said myself, I said, "Hey, write this article based on this," and it came up with some pretty good stuff. but then it's like, I got to put my touch on it because it's not quite there. And I think I'm not sure. I think it will probably be there once it gets to know me better and things like that. But I think there's also two parts of it. When I saw it write this stuff, but then I learned how to write better too. I'm like, you know what? I should write it like that's a good format. I'm going to use that for my format and my stuff. So truthfully, the cool part about AI, I think the good part of it, scary part, I think we all can see. The good part I see is that we humans are learning from the different formats and shapes and things that it puts things in for us and helps us to organize information in a way that we can consume it better and more easily. What do you think about that when it comes to the technicians actually becoming smarter? Because of, if you have that, like you have I think you are a part investor in a company called smartac.com, which is a system that will do the same type of thing. It'll analyze the system and do some predictive analysis of what's going to happen and even some repairs and things like that. But to me, if I was a technician who was unaware and that's telling me that, oh, here's the problem, here's how we figured it out, it's like, oh, they're not just telling you what the problem is. They're telling you how it also calculated it based on the readings and the numbers and things like that. Can you tell me how do you think that could actually help technicians get smarter as opposed to just giving them the end result or an answer? What do you think of that?
Well, to your point, I think, I think if we used AI to troubleshoot specifically down to the component level on a system, it could clearly say, here's the metrics whereby we made this decision. So, this piece is this, this pressure's off, this temperature's off, this air movement is wrong, and really kind of give a technician a clear understanding on the holistic view of how the system's operating, and so he can get it clear in his mind to be able to troubleshoot without the AI. So I think there's a lot of learning to be had too. And just like you said, now I'm starting to use the chat GPT and when I'm writing things, and sometimes it writes better than I do, sometimes it doesn't. But certainly if I want to gain a quick amount of knowledge on a big subject, right? But pare it down into some specific points on the subject, boy, that does a lot of research for you fast. So same kind of thing, I have this challenge, they can go and I have this challenge of the holistic approach of the system, and especially on the big commercial stuff as well. What are the probable challenges, or what would be a most efficient troubleshooting process, even in construction? While you're installing, what would be the optimum staging for the job and a schedule for the job? I mean, this is where it's all going. I have these conditions that exist. Tell me how to optimize the outcome.
That's amazing. Imagine getting like an installation sequence list and how much time each part of the job would take based on input it's had, and to give us the install manager, hey, here's what it should take to do this job. I know you sold this much of it, but here's what it should take. That is amazing. And so I think
I always thought the install. Sorry, I always thought that the install piece of the business too, and we have not got anywhere near this at Goettl, but I always thought the installation team should operate more like a NASCAR pit crew. Everybody knows their part, they're rehearsed, and they pull up and they approach every single job the same way every time. Now I understand it's not quite possible to approach every single job the same way, but for the most part, I think that that's kind of where you could head, and you collect some data, and then the AI would start to point in the right direction. You talk about what's that old stuff that GE kind of founded, Six Sigma, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So imagine what that'll do for Six Sigma, for instance.
Mm. Imagine this: if they had, let's say you had control of the what AI can do for you, and you'd say, hey, I want my technicians to get the path. So this AI has to explain how it found the answer, and then, or just the way, like you said, just be a part, just only show them which part needs to be replaced. It could be a choice of both things. I guess it could be. That's the thing that blows our mind, right? That's why we all love talking about it. Is that it just like we start to think about one path, like, hey, what about these other turns that you could take? It gives me really seriously. It gives me I don't know how you feel, but I definitely feel happy to be alive during this great time of our existence. What do you think
I
about that,
am.
Ken?
I remember having these kind of conversations back when, DDC, direct digital control systems started to come out, and all the possibilities. And we had the very similar conversation. So it's just another evolution of the industry. And that's why, the main reason why I had made an investment into Smart AC. It's because I have been a beta site for so many monitoring devices. I've been on this monitoring thing for 15 years, and various control systems and Wi-Fi operated systems that are picking up signals from a cell phone inside the device, all kinds of stuff. And they're all over my house. My house is just a whole test, a test site. Matter of fact, I got the most elaborate air conditioning system, I think, of anyone in Las Vegas where I live anyway. But anyway, so the Smart AC, it uses AI, and it's a predictive system. And me coming from the analog world, I like wires. It seems very clear to me if you put a wire to something and you're going to get the right information you need or the right result you need. So anyway, I was a little skeptical at first, and I tried it out. And, so I had, 4 different monitoring devices going on at the same time, including Smart AC. And they all kind of came up with the same result, except Smart AC was one week to 3 months out in front every time. It was the same result, 1 month to 3 months out in front of the analog stuff that I've tried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, after looking at it, I mean, it had the system status, the tech messaging. It really is like to me, it's a dream for a service manager to be able to really oversee the jobs. And we do a thing where we really believe in, the management, active management of employees, where we're allowing, well, when you had the book, the E-Myth Contractor, your HVAC Contractor book, it's like, how can we create the job so we always do the job right every time? To me, this is a great tool for today for a service manager to use to be able to monitor the system performance before somebody leaves, to kind of document that this thing was working when we left the house, as a management tool. Which I guess brings up the next area is, how do you think AI will affect management and inventory and other parts of the business in the future? What do you think of that?
Well, I think it's going to streamline the whole process, right? I mean, we've been able to book calls for a while, or certainly the chat functions is an AI function on a website. But that's been evolving a long time. You're going to be able to book calls with AI, and every other function inside the business will eventually get there. I'm not sure how many headcount that will reduce in the business, but it's going to be some. I think it'll be material, and I think it'll be different kind of people in the business one day than what the old model typically suggested. But back to the Smart AC thing, I want to say, despite some recent narrative that's been put out on certain Facebook groups, club memberships aren't dead, and I don't think they'll ever be dead. And I think the model of bonding your customer in some sort of subscription fashion to your business is got to be the key motive of your company. I think where everybody kind of gets off the mark here is most of us start out poor, and we don't have a lot of capital, and we don't really understand how to gain capital and utilize leverage to grow the business. So, we're hand to mouth a lot of times, and we know that service agreements are the right thing to do, or club memberships. Yet, sometimes you can't afford to play the game as well, and you got to go out and make the sale. And then once you start doing really well and making the sale, that overused strength, that's a lot more sexier than making a club membership sale. But really, at the end of the day, like the tortoise and the hare children's book, the right thing to do is build a business based on your club membership base. I mean, think about it. One day, if you had 25,000, 50,000 club memberships to manage, your marketing costs would drop significantly. Your need for some great brand, brand message delivery every single day on the radio, probably don't need as much. We don't need that sophisticated people, right? We're just servicing this club member base. Sales can be easier. The pressure to drive and the pressure to sales can be easier because a lot of these customers will just naturally, by their age, the system age, will create a replacement opportunity for you. Now you step back and say, okay, how do I take this AI and use it to manage that big mass of club memberships and make this really clean, easy to run, duplicatable, scalable model work? Well, I have to have some sort of monitoring device that will predict failures for the customer and slow the routine twice a year visits down, because that's where it's really the struggle, right? The more club memberships you get, the more technicians you require, and then you are torn every summer between, do I run the demand call where I know there's a $15,000 replacement job, or do I run the maintenance for my club membership on a 3-year unit, right? This way, you can it's a better management system to manage it and say, we'll deliver our service when you need it. We'll tell you, the system will tell you or us when it's time to run, not just every 6 months.
Well, when I imagine it, I obviously believe service memberships are the lifeblood of every service company. There's nothing you're ever going to do to arm wrestle me out of that one. I just feel the way it is. And like you said, I believe in not, like, people say, how do you sell a membership? I'm like, dude, how do you not sell one? It's like when you offer it at every call, people don't sell it. People sell themselves on it, right? But here's the thing. The maintenance, what I really love about what you just said there, maybe I'm just going to sum it up, and maybe you can tell me if you disagree with this, is I'm hearing you say that the maintenance then could be more of an on-demand activity rather than something that's just scheduled. I call it dumb scheduling. You just throw it on the schedule and have to do twice a year. There's some sealed systems that are really high quality systems that may be installed the best way, and your install team is doing so great. There's no leaks. You come back out and change the filters, and you wouldn't even need a maintenance tech. It'd just be somebody out there. The thing's already taking temperatures and pressures. You can see the monitoring of the system. Maybe somebody just changes filters and moves on, or whatever type of thing. Maybe somebody could do 12 maintenance calls a day because all you're doing is changing filters, and if need be, for people who need it, and other people could just have them there to do it themselves if they wanted to. So I think, what do you think about the on-demand way of saying it? That is that something that am I overreaching when I say that?
No, I mean, think about it like this. The burden of the club memberships are typically the maintenances, right? That's the burden, the cost, the struggle, and especially depending on your capital, it may require you to make decisions sometimes that aren't in the best interest of the customer, which means you're not going to run the maintenance. You got to go for the ticket, right? And so this would take, if you used AI, a system like Smart AC, to lead your club membership program, you say, we're maintaining the system, we're checking the system 1 million times a day. It's pinging the system all day long, 24/7, right? And it's telling us whether we need to manage it. And really what your goal is, I want to build the base. I want to go out to maintain only when the system tells me to. And then what I really want to wait is for the system to tell me that I have a breakdown, because the money's in the breakdown typically, right? So, reverse the model. Right now, we're building the club membership base so we have something to do in the off season, and hopefully we can convert them into replacement sales. Flip it back this way, say, I'm going to get enough club memberships and not have to service them, not have to maintain them as frequent, and not have so many trucks and heads to try to manage. And I'm going to wait for the system to pick out demand calls for me, for it to have opportunities for greater tickets.
And really, it's better customer service, right, Ken? Because it's like then the maintenance calls are going to go to the people who actually need them. When the system says these 30% of these customers need some help, like right away, these other 20%, we're looking at maybe in a month or two, get ready for these people. You pretty much stage the customers in an intelligent fashion, and that's exciting. I just got a chill down my spine even thinking about. I think as a technician, really that's all technicians want. To me, when I was a technician, I was for a long time, I was like, yeah, don't they put any thought into these calls? They're sending me out to this thing. Like I'm there at 6:30 at night on a job we just did last May, and I'm here, and it's like, what am I doing here? It doesn't even make sense that doesn't even need maintenance. I could run a water. I got to fake like I'm doing maintenance because the thing is perfectly clean. Sometimes that's just the way companies did it. And this is for me, if I was a technician, I would have great hopes that now this is a higher source that's putting a thought into which call would actually be the best. That to me is a great benefit for retention of employees as well as retention of customers, I think.
Not to mention the smart AC will start to identify trends and such of the system before the maintenance and be able to predict, hey, look at this component and look at this component and check that while you're there. Really kind of giving you lead-ins to find other opportunities in the system that you can, discuss with the customer to modernize their system, or, clean up some challenge they may have. But it'll do that for you before you roll the truck. So you can, now you have an opportunity to even value that particular maintenance call and choose who you dispatch. And now with now the AI dispatch that are in some of the software systems, those two will marry and start to say, I have a smart AC call with these conditions, who's the proper tech to connect that one to send to that particular customer's house at this particular time.
Now you're just making me melt. That's so perfect. It's like a symphony music to my ears, Ken.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts here? I mean, you promised you would be. We'll try to do 20 minutes, but you can only hope to contain Ken Goodrich. You can't control him. So Ken, wrap it up with some final thoughts, and we'll make it roll here. What do you think? Any final thoughts here?
Well, I've always tried to, and since day one I went in business, I decided I'm going to try to make sure that I'm out in front with all the new technology, right? I just started day one. I didn't, and then I've always had a motive, and I tell my people, whatever they're doing, we ain't doing. We're going to do our own thing in our own way, and it's going to be better every single time. And so we've been always an early adapter of technology. I think, we were one of certainly the largest platform company that took on ServiceTitan when it first rolled out, for instance. Mm-hmm. But I think, everybody listening to this podcast needs to really think about their business and understand the model's changing. The model's changing so fast. And what everybody's deemed is the typical model where, you take the phone call with the girls with the headsets on and the cubicles, and they type it in tight, and then they do this, and then they dispatch it out that's all going away. Mm-hmm. And so, everybody needs to back up a second, say, okay, what's the new model? How do I streamline this old antiquated model? I mean, really, the model that most guys are using today, even some of the really big shops, are not much different than how you and I operated when we were in our 30s, right?
Right.
It's just, it might have a little more pizzazz because it's on a software, but, putting a schedule up and saying 10 to 12, I'm going to be at this call is no different. When we had a piece of tin on the wall and a little magnet and a handwritten note that we put up there, I got to be at Mrs. Jones at 10 to 12. Mm-hmm. Now it's going to be a whole nother game. It's you're going to use this aggregate data, and you build a business based on a smart AC platform, for instance, that's the motive is I'm going to bond every single customer to me on a subscription basis. I'm going to make them so hard to get to anyone to get in the middle of this relationship that I'm going to keep them. My retention rates are going to be through the roof, and I'm going to be talking to them through this application. I'm going to be sending them notices such as, hey, we have a water heater special, or hey, how about indoor air quality, or hey, new systems, this month, we're running a special. If you were thinking about a new system, you can just communicate with the customer at a whole nother level, and be the guardian of their home. You're looking at the data that's coming over, and you're saying, hey, I got my eye on you. I'm making sure you're okay, and I'll let you know when we got something we need to go check on for you. Really be out in front of the business model and stop all this nonsense where the game is really about going out and knocking somebody over the head and saying you need a new system with no data, with no a lot of big rationale about it. We're going to work on a methodology of a true system that is based on fact, not on anything else.
That's great. Well, I tell you what, I think you're helping us imagine on this podcast that the different places that AI can take us, and I think there's a lot of great positive thoughts about that. And right now, we may not all have involved with AI, but we definitely are involved with KI, Ken Intelligence. And thank goodness that the universe put you in the right place at the right time, from holding that flashlight all the way through holding the flashlight for contractors around the country. Ken, thank you for the service and your graciousness and kindness for being involved in this show and be able to bring this message to the people who need it. So thank you so much, Ken.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. And back at you, Joe. You've been a industry leader and maven for so many years and helped so many people. And I appreciate everything you've done for the industry as well.
Thanks, buddy. Have a great one, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode. Goodbye, everybody. All right, Ken, thanks a lot. Let me go and just stop the recording.